Here comes the nasty gram.
Send a priest to save my soul, forget it.
Welcome to the Nastygram RPG podcast. This is the Ithaca Project. Second Law, the scientific method.
Feeling it too hard is the poison to the heart of a cynic. Redemption.
So much for vacation. Thankfully, this isn't just some babysitting detail. However, what happened in that room is more than just a murder. No wonder the chief called in the FBI. Slater seems like he's been around the block a few times. And this broad Pearson, she's got someone's trust. The skills that these agents bring with them are going to be much needed. Ithaca isn't ready for something like this. Shit, I'm not ready for something like this again. At least the feds are on point. Luckily, Cornell's campus is empty with the holidays, so keeping this compartmentalized should be easier. That means doing this correctly, and getting the right person will make that promotion even better.
Hello, this is Josh, and I will be your handler.
And I'm Matt, playing Gilbert Herbert Buckholz.
This is Devin. I am playing Counselor, Agent, Audrey Ann Pearson.
And this is Jake, playing Agent Alan Slater.
Okay. The blackness pulls from the back, and the camera pans around a tossed and broken laboratory inside Landry Hall in Cornell University. On Sunday, May 26, 1940, Agent Slater, Agent Pearson, Sergeant Buckholz, and Officer Sheffield look around at the obviously tossed through high research laboratory here at Cornell, and all eyes fix on the broken body that is apparently Dr. Otto Laporte. The body is obscenely broken. The head lying almost tucked into its own armpit, limbs tangled over each other. Halfway up the wall on the bookshelves, shattered and broken wood lay splintered. I want everyone to make a sanity check. For those, I'm going to say specifically for Agent Slater, who served in the First World War, I'm going to give you plus 20 to your sanity for the purpose of this role. For Agent Pearson, correct me if I'm wrong, you probably haven't personally seen violence of this, hand-to-hand violence of this magnitude?
She's worked on a few cases in particular, but most of them involve human trafficking and investigating rings of dissidents. She has probably never seen a dead human body, except for that time that maybe she walked out of the First Bank in East Chicago.
All right. So I'm going to give Agent Pearson a minus 20 on this.
And this is you roll your current sanity, right?
Current sanity, you're trying to get under it. For this one, if you fail, there is no loss. I'm sorry. If you pass, you lose no sanity. If you fail, you lose a D4. It's kind of an optional rule as I understand it, whether you want this to be secret or private. I think for the sake of the audience who can't hear us, we can make it public, and the players won't actually know each other.
Audrey cleverly distracts herself from the body by scanning the room. She doesn't take any sanity damage.
All right.
Agent Slater takes out a cigarette and lights it and says, Officer Buckholz, what is your initial impression of the scene?
Officer Buckholz rolled a 00 and a 5. Is that 5?
That's a 5.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that's under my 60, so I'm good.
Solid success. Stanley rules don't really apply to NPCs, but for the sake of setting, I had Agent Sheffield roll, and you see him recoil. And he says under his breath, Jesus, mother of God.
Agent Pearson snaps her head towards him and says, Officer Sheffield, why don't you watch the door for us, please?
He swallows once hard. He's staring at the body and kind of shakes his head. Screen fades to black. Title card at the bottom. Boston Harbor, 1936. A 32-year-old Boston police sergeant, Gilbert Buckholtz, is standing there with Lieutenant Winters. Winters turns to you and says, yeah, I know, Buck. We've been here before. I know this is where you found the bodies, but what's done is done. We got our man. You've been raising us to think about this. Tell me exactly, what is your problem? What is your problem with where this investigation is heading?
Sir, you're going to sit here and tell me that you don't think that fucking scumbag Curly is going to come around and undercut this, huh? You don't think he's going to cut him? You know how he's feeling about the other missing suspect? We got him clean, sir. The jury convicted him on the physical evidence that we found. And Governor Curley thinks that he's just going to come in and undercut what we do. I'm sorry, is there anything the union can do about this?
Union? Come right on your ass. You know those sergeant stripes are temporary. You know you're acting. We got a lot of press here. Everybody's talking about this. Every headline you look at, it's the Mary Widow murders. What we got to do here is play ball. You understand that? Sometimes the right thing for the force, the right thing for the city, is to shut up and say, aye, aye, sir.
You see Buckholtz looks out over the water, kind of does one of those, runs his tongue over his teeth. Aye, aye, sir. Give a salute, turn his back, and walk back to his car.
I go, Buck, want a new attitude Monday morning.
Aye, aye, sir. Holds up a middle finger as he gets into the car and lights a cigarette.
Hey, Buckholtz! Screen fades to black. Telecard, Chicago Library, 1937. A 28-year-old Audrey Ann Pearson is sitting in a sharp business suit at a large table strewn with papers and legal texts before her. Her eyes show the signs of fatigue, of many long days and nights spent getting ready to pass her bar exam. The library is quiet, late, shortly before closing. You hear, suddenly, sharp footfalls of dress shoes clicking across the marble floor. You look up to see a man dressed in a suit, black trench coat billowing around him. He lifts up to take his hat off, and as his arm moves past his trench coat, you pull back and you see a badge and a gun at his waist. He walks over the table and he says, Audrey Ann Pearson?
Audrey almost doesn't even notice him for a moment. She's just sort of rubbing the bridge of her nose, trying to stay awake. And she just looks up. Oh, yes.
He extends a hand. He says, I'm Special Agent Doug Benning, Federal Bureau of Investigation. You're a bit of a hard woman to find. Instead of your residence, you might as well put the library, because apparently that's where you spend all your time. Been by the house twice in the last 2 days.
Yeah. I got a
bar exam.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on the degree. And from what I've been told, I think you got this one in the bag.
I wish I could be so sure, as sure as you, Agent Bennett.
Listen, Ms. Pearson, I'm a special agent directly assigned as assistant to the director of the FBI, Director Hoover.
I'm familiar with the man.
Well, he's familiar with you. He's actually had quite an interest in you. Your radio series highlighting the police efforts against the mafia over the last 10 years, the Blue versus the Darkness. Well, you've got the director's ear. And, he tasked me to come out here to find you and see if you had any interest in working with us, working for us.
Audrey stands up straight and adopts a pride about her for the FBI.
Yes. Specifically, the director would like to interview you for a spot as a counselor, reporting directly to him.
I haven't even passed the bar, and you're ready to offer me a job?
He smiles. He says, the director assumed from the background check we've been looking in for some time now. He doesn't think the timing of the bar will be a problem, but he'll wait till after you pass it.
I'm honored, sir.
He puts a business card down on the table. He says, this is the local office. Contact them when you're ready. They'll arrange transportation and come out to Washington, meet the director, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Gotta say, it feels like an honor. The amount the director's been talking about you. Send you out here, or send me out here. Well, he kind of smiles. He looks at you. He says, seems that you're up for it, as he looks down at the massive array of work in front of you.
She looks as well and looks back at him and sort of shrugs.
Good luck, if you'll need it. And I hope to see you in D.C.
Thank you, sir.
He nods and smiles and turns and walks out.
Audrey is flush. She turns around and looks at the table and sort of leans on the table with both hands with invigorated. And she nods to herself and sits down at the table.
Screen fades to black. Title card, Chicago Harbor, 1931. We look down at a pier, bustling with activity. There is a large, 150-foot-long barge pulled up alongside. Dock workers and police officers and customs officials are crawling all over it. You can see that they've uncovered and moved stacks of lumber to reveal hundreds upon hundreds of barrels. To the side, as this ant hive of activity continues, there's a man standing, looking out at the scene, looking down at some notes, a small notepad in his hand, and it is Alan Slater. He wears the badge of a customs agent. A Chicago PD lieutenant comes walking up. Someone you've worked with a couple times, Lieutenant Art Pearson.
Hey, Art, how's it going?
Ooh, Al, you did it this time, buddy. He reaches a hand out. Let me be the first to say, or at least the 40th, congratulations.
It's not that hard. You just look out over the bay and look at which ones are sitting a little too low, right?
Make it sound easy. Biggest bust in 3 years.
Yeah, for every one we get, 10 more get through, though.
Doesn't matter. Tide's churning or the times are changing. Either way, you did good here. I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on you.
Thanks. Hey, how are the kids?
They're good. Boy, I got my hands full. I got one racing to get in uniform and the other racing to get, I don't know, to the top of the world. Little Annie, man. I'm telling you, I don't know where she gets it from. Her mom's smart. I sure ain't. And she's got more brains than both of us combined.
Well, I try to remind myself, right? That's why we do this. Try to keep the streets clean, right? Keep this stuff off of the streets.
That's right. If it's worth doing for anything, it's worth doing for your kids. Good job, Al. Everybody in uniform feels a little bit better today.
Oh.
Pat you on the back. It's been a hard couple of years. Screen fades to black. We come back. Sunday, May 26th, 1940. Cornell University, Landry Hall.
Sergeant, what do you think?
Sheffield steps outside. You hear him take a deep breath, light a cigarette, and then kind of curse under his breath. And you hear a foot grinding a cigarette out.
Well, I think I know why they called you in.
Matt, give me... is anyone going to approach the body?
Not yet.
Okay.
I think Agent Pearson is going to walk around the room, sort of on the other end of the room. She's looking at some of these documents and things that were strewn. She wants to discern if any of the research for Project North Star was being done in this room specifically.
So it's hard to tell because you don't know really anything about Project North Star.
Right.
Do you have science? Any science skill?
I don't. But what I do have is I have a substantial score in law, as well as search. So maybe she's looking for documents or folders that may have some sort of classification marking on them, and seeing if any of those are the ones that were either looked through or tossed. I imagine it's not just one big pile, but there are, a desk over here with stuff out of it, a table over, a workbench over here.
You know what? Give me a law roll.
Okay.
How about you guys, Jake, Matt?
As Pearson's walking around the room, Buckles will walk up to the body. He'll probably find gloves or something like that.
Get some tucked in a pocket.
Yeah.
Do you have a pen to lift evidence up?
Make sure you anything you find as far as strange powders, you dab your finger and you sniff it, flick your tongue over it.
Yep.
Fentanyl.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll examine the body.
All right. Matt, why don't you have Buck give me a medicine roll?
And I think Slater's taking more of a top-down look. He's not really closing in to look at what the files say or what exactly is going on with the body. He's more kind of trying to reconstruct the scene. I assume there's a lot of blood.
There's not a ton of blood.
Yeah.
There is some. There's no open wounds. I mean, there's some small like splits and breaks.
That makes
but it's mostly
bashing damage.
looks. I mean, looking from afar, like blunt trauma. So,
Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at that bookshelf. I'm gonna kind of just look at the scene and try to figure out how this tussle went down.
do you have forensics or search?
I have a lot of search.
Why don't we, this is kind of a preliminary, so why don't you give me a search unless you see something more appropriate?
So Buckles has a 60 in medicine, and I rolled a 60.
Okay. You meet it, you beat it. And there's actually an interesting thing. This won't matter until we get to opposed rolls, but when you do opposed rolls, so you're trying to get below that threshold, so you'd think like the lower the better, but it kind of makes the math easier. When you do an opposed roll, whoever wins that opposed roll is whoever has a success in a higher number. So let's say you're brawling and you both have unarmed combat. The NPC has an 80 in unarmed combat and you have a 60. Let's say you roll a 58 and the NPC rolls a 32. He has a higher skill and a lower number, but you both had a success and you have a higher number, so you would win that contest. So doesn't matter for now, but when it comes to it.
Right.
So you got a 60. Devin, how did Annie do with...
Annie rolled a 23 under 60 for law.
Okay.
And I got a 63 out of 70 for search.
Okay. All right. Devin.
Making a dance floor out of this crime scene.
So you start kind of looking around, looking through the papers.
She doesn't touch anything.
Thinking classification. Then you kind of stop. You pull your briefcase out. You kind of skim through it. It's minimal. There's like 3 sheets of paper in there. You have very little information, but you think back to what the director said. And you think about this program and your legal interpretation from what you're told and the limited documentation you have is that Project North Star is probably some level of a classified program. But given that only one person involved in this program actually has a security clearance, probably the only documents that have any kind of indications of classification would be in his personal control. That isn't to say that some of these other things wouldn't be classified if the government like pulled them in. But what it sounds like, your legal interpretation basically is that this is sort of being run as almost a manager observing and managing the classification here. So whatever level, you don't know, on a personnel level, how he's kind of running this team, how much minutia there is or oversight, but you're pretty confident that the only stuff that's going to have any kind of markings is the stuff that Gibbs is going to have.
Are there any like memoranda with Dr. Gibbs' name on it? Perhaps directives to the team?
You find his name in a couple places. You look through the documents. A lot of it seems pretty technical. You don't see any directives. You see some kind of letters, responses, and it seems very academic.
Okay.
It's harder without a scientific background to really break it down further. It's a lot of like written in techno mumbo jumbo or very concise, received your report, good stuff, whatever, things like that.
Okay.
Nothing that strikes you as like a manager talking to his team even. It's more collegiate and academic.
So this scene, could Audrey assume that there's not a substantial amount of sensitive information in this room specifically?
It's your assumption is that in some degree, everything in this building is sensitive.
Okay.
And beyond that, the material itself is just over your head.
Gobbledygook, as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Agent Slater?
Yeah.
She looks up from her table. Would you join me over here quickly, please?
I walk over.
I've seen Gibbs' name on this stuff. All this seems really technical. There's no security classifications, I believe. Whatever we might find that is sensitive to Project North Star would be on Dr. Gibbs' person. I think in order to dissect the rest of this stuff, we're going to have to circle back with our scientist.
Yeah, I agree. None of it makes any sense to me either. I think maybe we wait for him before we talk to Gibbs as well.
All right.
We
need to make sure that this room stays secure and no one touches anything. I don't want anything moved, anything touched. No hands, no feet, no eyes on this room until we come back.
We got to be careful, though. The longer we keep this place locked down, the more rumors are going to start to spread.
Well, let's use the long weekend and get everything done that we can.
Matt, Buckholtz looking over the body. Without manipulating it too much, doing some gentle palpation. Rigor mortis has passed. There's a lot of lividity. The blood is pooling into the victim's legs. He's kind of half propped up. Again, just really awkwardly thrown. He's on kind of his back left side, propped up against the bookshelf. His head is rolled forward almost into his armpit. And his right arm comes over the top of his arm, reaching down towards the floor. It's grotesque to even look at. But an initial investigation is that there is a lot of blunt trauma to the back. This person was struck heavily all along the backside or was struck into something heavily. But there is clear evidence of point damage to the neck. The neck is crushed in a way that does not correlate with striking something. Limited palpation kind of indicates that the entire spinal column from the base of the skull to the collarbone is ground. You've never really seen anything like this. Maybe if you had a victim that, fell from a big height, landed on their head, but it's almost, if you found a bone that was caught in machinery, that's kind of what the closest thing you could attribute it to. It was crushed.
Okay.
Jake, you passed, right? Your search roll?
Yeah.
All right. And remind me, you were looking.
So I'm taking a look at the bookshelf, and I'm also going to take a look at the door.
Okay.
Kind of see how that entry was forced, and just see if there are other signs, like if there's any sort of signs that this guy put up a fight, anything like that.
Okay. What you find is it looks like, it's hard to tell without more tools, but the lock possibly was attempted to be picked, but ultimately was forced. Then what you find is unusual. You find a chair with one leg kind of snapped, and you think that the chair was propped behind the door and the leg was kind of broken when it was pushed. It's hard to tell exactly, but this is a pretty high quality lock. It would make no sense to put, it's like a simple kind of office chair, to use that to prop a door with this level of lock. The only thing that makes sense to you would be somebody using it after the lock was damaged.
Is there any other way into this room?
There is. There's another 2 doors. One kind of directly across from this one, and then one at the end, the other end, kind of, so one across from the other, facing each other at the end of the room. Remember, it's about 20 by 30. So at the narrower end, so 20 feet across from each other at one end, and then at the other end, kind of in the center of the 20-foot wall, there's another door. That door at the far end is kind of ajar. The door across from you, you can see, has a security lock in place.
Okay. I'm going to go look in the other room. Through the door that's ajar.
Okay. You open it and look through, and it goes back into a hallway, goes down and comes to a T.
Huh. Okay. And there's no signs that this door was forced or anything?
No, the locks seem to be undone.
Well, what do we got?
Sergeant Buckholtz, did you positively ID Dr. Laporte?
Let's say you've got pictures of the staff, and that is indeed Dr. Laporte.
Sure.
From your small bio blurbs that you have, all you really have about him is the right tab. He is, so you have Dr. Otto Laporte, 38 years old, German citizen, emigrated to America, 1932, and listed as physicist. Specialty, electromagnetic waves and quantum mechanics.
That's not a thing yet.
This started in the 19th century and early 20th century.
Damn.
It's not what we think of it now.
Is there a desk or that is uncluttered, or a place that was sort of untouched by the tossing?
There isn't much untouched. There's stuff that looks like more time was spent. You all, there's no discretion what happened in here.
Okay. Well, Audrey was thinking of just, she wants to put some stuff down on a table and look at some stuff.
Yeah.
So she's going to go back to University of Chicago mode and just squat down on the floor.
There's also a couple long work tables that just you could use as like a study station, a work surface, whatever.
She's going to set up there.
All right. The other thing that's kind of apparent to all of you, and maybe not from my description, is this definitely isn't like a personal lab. This is a shared kind of workspace. There's a variety of equipment along one of the walls with the workbenches, scientific equipment that, do any of you guys have any science knowledges?
No.
Negative.
Okay.
Be sure useful if we had a science guy.
I'm going to go back down that hallway that was open where the T intersection is. I'm looking to see if Dr. Laporte has an office over here. Are there names on the doors or anything?
Okay. You actually kind of do a mental roster, and it registers in your head that you saw the name on the way to this office. Maybe you took a quick look in, recognized the name, but you recognized, several of the names that are on this list. And you recall it's back up the hallway you came in through.
Okay. All right.
You remember, you kind of go through your mental sort of imagery, like, okay, office, right-hand side, unlocked door, medium-sized office, nothing immediately apparent. You moved on.
Okay.
So it was the way you came in. It was closest to the door that was forced.
But it's on the other side of the door that was forced.
The outside, yes.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. I thought I had this figured out until I saw this chair. I hold up the busted chair.
What about the chair?
Well, looks like Dr. Laporte was trying to keep someone out.
Isn't that what the locks are for?
Well, the locks are for that, but looks like I kind of I put the chair, I wedged the chair behind the door the way I think it would have been, and I say, I think this is where it was, till it got forced.
It would take, it's not the world's strongest chair, but it would take with leverage.
Yeah, I say
it would either, if it was improperly put, it would have slid away.
I say this would take a linebacker, but someone who can do that shouldn't have a problem with it. Point to the body, obviously, when I say that.
Audrey is scattering papers out in front of her on the floor, sort of in between a couple of these workstations. And she's going to start cross-referencing the names that she was given who were involved with Project North Star with the roster that Glenda gave her of students who are on campus or those, especially those off-campus students, and start narrowing down who at this campus is both on Project North Star and on campus during the weekend.
Okay. Unless I misinterpreted it, you were getting a list of students, not faculty.
Okay.
So do you want to retcon that? Or it's kind of a different thing?
I think when she was talking with Glenda, she wanted to know who was on campus.
I mean, I guess the other assumption would be unless
these people could live locally too and not be on campus.
Faculty, unless they have, especially research faculty, they're there. It's their job,
right? Whether
or not they're students there. So unless they're on leave, so that's something you might be able to get separately.
Yeah, and I think all those people would be persons of interest, anyways, at least to talk to, and we have those names. But she wants to see students, especially.
You have 6 names on your list that you got from the FBI. There are 6 names that are listed as affiliated with Project North Star.
Okay.
None of them are students.
Okay.
From the bio on each, you can assume that they are all faculty in a way, whether teaching or research affiliated.
Okay. Good to know. Yeah, she spends time sort of finding that out and deducting.
Buck is still kind of bent over the body?
Yeah. And as Agent Slater points out the chair and makes the linebacker comment, Buck Holtz will stand up from the body. Well, I hate to blow your linebacker theory out of the water, but I've never seen a human that could do this kind of damage. This looks like it was done by some sort of, I don't know, machinery. You can see the bruising here are, from what you can see. I mean, with the clothing, it's in, trying to move it around. It's difficult to tell the extent of it, but this looks like it's blunt force trauma from pretty high up. Either that or, there's been a few accidents down at the Ithaca Firearms, and some of that machinery get a little crazy. Seen some people get caught in some stuff, and
I look around. I say, I don't see any machinery in here. Are you suggesting that the body was moved?
I mean, it was moved at one point. You see those bookshelves, right?
But are you suggesting the body came from somewhere else where this didn't happen here?
Agent Slater, I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just telling you the facts on the ground here.
You kind of both, you're kind of kneeling down. You're both looking up at the bookshelf, and the shelves that are broken, the lowest one is about 5 feet up. And the highest one is about 8 feet up.
The broken shelf?
Yes. There's like 2 or 3 shelves that are either heavily or partly damaged, a couple feet wide. You kind of can't help but kind of make an assessment. The body is pretty close at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't really make sense.
Buckhold's a pretty big guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's 6'2".
I look at you and I say, let's suppose you were looking for something. You chase this guy into here. He locks the door, puts a chair behind it because he hears you scratching at the lock. Eventually, you get tired of trying to pick it. You kick that door open. You grab that guy by the scruff of his collar. You hoist him up into this shelf. I kind of gesture like holding someone up. You slam his head into the back of those bookshelves. And you say, you tell me where that thing is.
You know,
you kind of, as you're gesturing and standing there, both of you are kind of standing up. The uppermost damage is almost at the beyond the extension of even if Buck raises his arm up into the air.
But if he was holding someone, like their head would be higher than his arm.
Correct. It would be
if he was. He's pretty huge.
Listen,
to reach somebody, to lift somebody that high would be physically difficult. To do it with enough force to break shelves at that height is hard to comprehend.
Listen, I'm flattered by the thought, but looking at those locks and with that kind of a chair behind the door, I ain't kicking anything in. As well as that height, did you see those shelves? That's solid oak. Those aren't breaking from a human body. Those break the body. Now, as far as I can tell you, you see the hemorrhaging here around the neck. This doesn't look like it was from those shelves. And I hate to tell you boys, sorry, agents, Ithaca's a small college town. We're not some Apple like you guys came from. We don't have forensic department, medical team. It's a little bit beyond our purview. There's a couple of morticians in town. They might be able to help us look inside, but
Audrey and I alternate between calling you Audrey and Annie because we're friends, Devin.
Her friends call her Annie.
All right, we're friends, right?
You can call her Counselor Pearson or Agent Pearson.
Counselor Pearson and Agent Slater. You guys both have pretty good human, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
All right. Something is drawing your attention about Buckholz. He has this real kind of blue collar vibe. He sort of self-effacing in how he talks about Ithaca PD and the limited crimes here. He is demonstrating a lot more medical proficiency than you would expect. Especially if you looked over, you saw him kind of going through the body. You're a little bit surprised.
Agent Pearson, Counselor Pearson will stand up, sort of musters up her courage and approaches to where the body is. Sergeant Buckholz, was this person, were they attacked with a weapon? Or were they beaten? Was this someone doing this with their bare fists or feet? This is...
Far as I can tell, I got no idea. All I can tell you is the bruising around the neck here is different than what would be caused by, anything I can think of. Sans maybe Agent Slater's idea of a linebacker picking somebody up, but that would have to be a massive person. And I've been in Ithaca for a few years. There's quite a few people roaming around this campus, but there's nobody around here that's this size.
As you're talking, Matt, as Buck is talking and you're kind of gesturing down the body, you're kneeling again, looking up. The three of you are kind of standing around a circle. You're gesturing down the body and you're talking about the wounds and you're moving your hands back and forth. And suddenly you kind of you didn't really think of it because the trauma doesn't match it, but you move your hands back and you see Buck kind of put his hands in the classic strangulation posture. And you see him not touch the body, but sort of rest his hands on the outside and then kind of with his gloves, like palpate up and down. Matt, looking at it this way and having that grip as you do this, it doesn't really compute because you've seen a couple strangulation victims by hands or by rope, and the level of trauma does not match. But what does match are the points of pressure that are applied. Like the damage was applied in the same pattern as a pair of hands grasping it. Not huge hands, smaller than yours.
So as Buckholz is gesturing, and because the head is sort of tucked underneath the arm in the armpit, as he's gesturing, he's going to kind of he's going to put his hand under the chin and move the head just a little bit and kind of expose a few more of those bruises and sort of line up that. Agent Pearson, you mind coming over here for a second? I just need to borrow your hands.
She looks at her hands and they're shaking, and she just sort of makes a fist a couple of times and walks over.
He'll take your hand and sort of with one hand tilt the doctor's head up and place yours closer. That doesn't make any sense.
Audrey, counselor, how tall are you? How big of a bird are you?
5'7".
5'7".
Tall for the time.
Okay.
Didn't have as many antibiotics back then.
Matt, it's very close. Give me a sanity roll.
Oh. It's a 14.
Nice.
Under 60.
Okay. 1 if you pass. So mark your current sanity down 1. What you're realizing as Counselor Pearson, Agent Pearson, places her hands around the neck as you prop it up is maybe slightly bigger, but very close to these size hands, almost directly match the wounds, but in no way makes sense to you to the level of trauma inflicted. And it kind of breaks your brain for a half a second.
So you say down by 1, so 59 from 60?
Correct.
Okay.
So the next time you have to roll sanity, your 59 is what you're going for.
Okay.
So you see how the category under that is breaking point?
Yep.
So that's the number where if you get there, you start, getting derangements.
Something happens.
Something bad
Some
happens.
interesting stuff happens.
Yeah.
Fucked up.
So yeah, he lines your hand up with this quizzical look comes over his face, and he squints a little bit. That can't be right. The bruising here, that matches up with somebody close to your hand size, but I mean, no offense, but you don't look like you could pick up much more than a sack of potatoes.
Slightly offended.
Sergeant, do you have some sort of medical training?
PD, there's things that you learn on the job, mostly.
Mostly.
You've worked with a lot of police in your career. There's not a lot of beat cops that have the level of medical, unless he's just completely bullshitting, but he seems confident to the point where it's affecting him.
I say, how long did you say it'd been since there was a murder here in Ithaca?
8 years, they tell me.
8 years.
They tell him.
On the job, mostly.
Yeah. But no, just...
So maybe we should get a second opinion on that.
That's fine with me. Like I said, we got a couple morticians in the town.
But it sounds like you're corroborating my idea.
Sure.
So we're looking for someone, I don't know, 7 feet tall,
Tiny hands?
Tiny hands. Super strong.
It's Donald Trump on steroids.
Yeah,
A spider monkey, man.
I'll get on the horn and I'll let the chief know to put out an APB for a 7-foot tall linebacker with tiny hands. He'll kind of get up and he'll walk over to the side of the room, away from the body, towards the door, and he'll light up a cigarette.
Sergeant, I understand that you're joking, but you are aware that we're trying to keep this quiet, right? You understand the term compartmentalizing information?
Yes, sir.
There's a lot of things that we're not supposed to talk about. There's elements to this, reasons that we've been called in that you're not yet aware of. I look over at Agent Pearson.
Yeah, well, no offense, sir, but I've been part of some cases where, we didn't exactly need the FBI's assistance to bring perpetrators to justice. So, pardon me if I feel like this is a little over the top.
What if I told you it's a matter of national security?
Audrey
Ithaca.
steals a look.
National security. If it was
That's
national
right.
security, we would be over at Ithaca Firearms. We wouldn't be at a college campus.
Why not, Sergeant?
Well, I mean, I don't understand most of what is being scribbled on a lot of these walls and paperwork here, but if it was national security, Ithaca Firearms is, well, if everything over in Europe keeps continuing the way it is, it's going to be one of the busier places in the city. They're going to be manufacturing a lot of the firearms that are going to be getting shipped over to Europe.
Interesting fact, Ithaca Firearms made one of the most iconic shotguns. It was the one that Annie Oakley herself employed.
That is correct.
Matt always does his goddamn research.
Fucking
My
A,
namesake.
bud.
Can't give character points in this game. Doesn't really work.
No.
So, if it was a matter of national security, whatever is happening in this room would be tied over to them.
Well, Sergeant, I don't know what any of this stuff means either. I don't even know what quantum physics is.
That's how you say that word? Quantum?
But I can tell you this. Before anything in those factories becomes real, it starts off here. It's like a recipe. You know how to cook?
I don't do women's... And he'll look over to Pearson as it comes out of some... Yeah, a little bit.
The interesting thing about cooking is you start off with a bunch of ingredients and a recipe. Really nothing. Then when you're done, you have a good home-cooked meal. Well, that's the recipe. And I point to the wall.
Yeah, well,
And then I point to, I look towards Pearson and I say, we're going to need an expert.
I'd like to talk with the night watchman first. I want to know what he found. I want to know if he moved anything. I want to get the whole picture.
We need to speak with Gibbs as well.
We do.
I'm sure he's waiting for us.
Agent Pearson, put your hands on your knees to push yourself upright from where you're still crouching over this body.
She checks to make sure there's no blood left on her suit pants.
They're shaking. And the feel as, Buck kind of put his hands around yours to kind of position him. And just enough to squeeze the neck. And you don't have much of a medical background, right?
No.
What you felt was mush. And the thought of hands your size doing this damage, looking up at this damage in the wall. Give me another sanity check. 1 if you pass, 1d4 if you fail.
I'm going to go back to the door. Now that we've talked about the size of this person, I'm looking to see the damage that's been done to the door to force it. Like, does it look like it was a shoulder or a foot?
Audrey walks past you and lights up a cigarette.
Sheffield's out there, and he kind of looks at you and looks at the cigarette, and you see him like reach into his pocket and like immediately pull out a pack of cigarettes and light one up.
She's taken this long drag and just staring at him the whole time.
Jake, give me another search roll.
I rolled an 8.
Okay. The lock was broken. The door was forced by a tool, some kind of mechanical implement.
Okay.
However, there is an indentation in the door of someone putting their body into it. You think the most logical thing is that the door was forced mechanically, and then someone also had to force it again. That would be the chair.
I say, all right.
And it's a heavy wood door. The fact that you can even feel an indentation is significant.
I say, take a look at this. The plot thickens. I think our man Laporte here actually broke into this lab. Looks like the door was... Well, look at the lock here. It's busted. Someone broke that lock so they could get in here. Then they barricaded the inside. Then someone put their shoulder into that door hard enough to bust that chair on the other side. Look here on the door.
Buckholz will walk over and can he sort of measure his size to the impression on the door?
Once he points it out to you, yes. Smaller than you. A good amount.
Okay. You think it was the doctor that did this?
I shrug. I say, I think the doctor jimmied the lock. Why don't we check again and see if we can find the tool that was used to break that lock open?
Can Buckholz go over to the body and sort of...
Yeah, I say, take a look in his pockets.
Yeah, pat him down. Kind of try to go through whatever pockets he has on him.
Okay. You go through his pockets. There's a wallet. There's an ID badge. And there's a set of security keys.
He'll grab the keys and walk over to the door and start going through the keys and seeing if any of them actually fit the lock.
So you are all standing at the doorway to this lab. Buck is kind of positioning his body and referencing Audrey at this door. Buck thinks he's determined that whoever put their body into this was maybe, a little bit bigger than Audrey, but not much taller. Definitely under 6 feet. You would guess, anywhere from 5'8" to 5'10", 11", something like that. Hard to tell exactly. And you're all kind of standing there looking at it. And
Sergeant, do we have an office for Dr. Laporte?
Oh, and I'm sorry. You went back in to search the body.
He found the security
guy
keys.
got the keys, and he's going over and trying all the keys to see if they fit in this lock to this door.
You go through a number of keys. I mean, this is like, janitor level set of keys. And you find a key that fits the security lock on this door.
Well, Asian, I hate to break your theory,
I say,
but
I'm striking out. All right.
I mean, listen, coming in clean on this scene, my best guess would be Doctor here made his way into this room, locked the door behind him. Somebody was trying to break in. He used the chair, barricade the door, forcible entry. Whomever made it inside of this room attacked him. He didn't give them whatever it is that they wanted. They somehow crushed his vertebrae in his neck with their tiny hands, lifted him several feet into the air, smashing him against oaken bookshelves, leaving what is, this crumpled mess here.
I'd say that just about covers it.
Sheffield stubs out his cigarette and says, "Wait, Sarge, but he has the keys, right?"
Yeah.
So
I have another possible scenario. The doctor has the keys, had the keys. He's in the room and it's locked. Someone breaks in. They break in with a substantial amount of force. They assault and kill the doctor. The assailant then closes the door and blocks it with the chair and leaves through another way. She looks through the other door. Oscar, the night manager, perhaps on his way, he notices the broken entry, and Oscar perhaps breaks the chair when he pushes in to find the body of Dr. Laporte. We won't know for sure until we talk to the night manager, the night watchman himself. But there's another way of egress that we haven't looked at.
Yeah, but, I mean, night security is going to have keys to all the doors. If this door's locked and he can't get in or blocked, he'll just walk around to the other door and unlock it and come in. There's no reason he's going to go breaking down the door. But I do agree. I think we need to go talk to him.
I think we should check out, and she motions towards the other door in the room that leads to that hallway.
Yeah, well, I might as well take a look. And, when it really comes down to it, I'm not sure if it really matters that much. I think what matters is who did it, what were they after, what's missing. It's clear that they came in here looking for something.
Do you think they found it, Agent?
I shrug and I say, doesn't exactly seem like a high security area. I don't know if there'd be anything that worth stealing in here.
Well, whoever it was didn't have to force their way into the building. There was no signs of forced entry at the front entrance. I don't want to make assumptions this early, but whoever it was had access to the building.
I think it would also be fair to assume that they knew what they wanted. I mean, we went over every inch of this building. All the doors that are supposed to be locked are locked. Ain't no forced entry in any of the others. Seems to me it's clear that whatever it is that they wanted wasn't here. If we want to find out what was in here, I think we got to talk to Oscar.
Dr. Gibbs.
Also the other people that work in this room.
Before we go find Gibbs and check out this second egress, do you mind if Agent Pearson and I have a word?
Not at all. You want us to wait outside the room, or you want us to wait outside the building?
I point through the open door towards the second egress, and I was like, we'll catch up.
Buckholz will stand up straight, give you like a 3/4 hearted salute. Yes, sir. Walk away.
Aye, sir.
As Sheffield and Buckholz walk away, Sheffield says, "Hey, maybe we should leave fucking Ithaca, and they can, just have the runabout town. Maybe we should get out of their hair."
Yeah. That's the Fed's attitude. They always seem to want to come in and take charge. You know what? Let them. None of this shit makes any sense to me, Sheffield.
After they go away, I say, kid's got a chip on his shoulder about something, but he knows what he's doing. Better than I'd expect out of a sergeant in a small town.
He has a professional's brain with a child's attitude. I've dealt with local PD like this before. We just remain professional, remain cordial. We don't have to be friends here.
Your legal opinion, how much do we share with these two?
Only as much as we have to.
How much do we have to share in order to make this operation go smoothly? It might help if they knew we're after a Russian spy. A German spy.
In my professional opinion, I think you spoke too much when you suggested a issue of national security. I think they don't need to know that. They're here trying to solve a murder. We're here for the same reasons, but with a little bit more qualification. I think if the time comes where they need to know things, then we can tell them, but only if we must. I don't trust these small town police. Their friends, their family, they all live here. And once those barriers of professionalism are broken down, when they clock out at the end of the day, they're apt to share things that they've seen on the job, whether it's to preserve their own sanity or just simply to make themselves appear a bit more interesting.
There can be strength in that too, though, in that shared camaraderie, that those open doors. Don't underestimate it. But you're right. We'll keep quiet for now. I walk down the hall.
Okay. You guys come back together. Sheffield had shifted his grumbling to you, Buck, to kind of questioning about the body. He hasn't been on the force that long, under 10 years. He was actually here for that last murder case, but as far as what he's told you, he didn't work it himself. But you know that he's seen dead bodies before, but he is clearly having a hard time wrapping his head around the level of violence that was done to that body. And he's kind of talking about it, asking, but not even giving you a chance to answer, and then kind of shuts up as the two feds walk up. You're standing in this four-way intersection from the back of that lab. One way led into the lab. One hallway goes down another set of offices. One goes, as you kind of, start moving around a little bit, one goes to a side entrance to the building's exterior. And the fourth goes to a stairwell that leads up.
It's probably, what time is it now? Is it starting to get dark?
It is. It's probably 7 o'clock, and the sun is coming down towards the horizon. You don't even notice really till you're all walking, kind of back and forth, checking this way. You go down the side with offices. Some are locked. They're almost all locked. A couple aren't. There's a couple workrooms that are open. No signs of any disturbance. You go to the exterior door. You pop that open. It looks across kind of a little bit of an opening, maybe 25, 30 feet. And there's another building, Roshan Hall, which is where you were told Dr. Gibbs was. And then the other stairway leading up, notice the sun setting as you get to that exterior door.
Point of order, this lab, it is on the ground floor?
Yes.
Okay. Any signs of blood on the doorway leading out? Is any indication as to where the assailant left from, whether in a rush or otherwise?
Give me a search roll. Anyone can do that if you're working on that area?
Sure.
Fail.
Do I have search?
So if you fail a roll, by the way,
I do.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if anybody's failed anything yet, but if you do, check that little box next to the skill. That is how you level up, basically, is by failing a skill.
I did fail.
Ooh. Did we all fail?
No.
Oh, okay.
Agent Pearson, with her keen eye, rolled a 30 under a 40 for a search.
Okay. You're all kind of looking around, looking in different directions. Let's say maybe Sheffield and Pearson had gone down towards the exit, and Buck and Slater went through the row of offices and found nothing significant there. Sheffield's looking out at the sky and kind of looks down at his watch again. And as he's doing that, Agent Pearson, you look at the door handle, and there's a little bit of a smudge, and you see a little bit of a dark red smear. There's a fleck, a little tiny smear of dried blood.
She looks over at Sheffield. She sees he's looking at his watch. Almost time to clock out, Officer Sheffield?
No, a minute till whatever. You got something?
Look here. Bit of a smudge. Don't touch it. Bit of a smudge.
Is that blood?
I think so. Sergeant,
Yeah.
could you join us, please?
Poke out his cigarette and walk over.
Look at it. It does look like a little bit of a smudge of blood. It's hard to determine much more than that, but it's, not ancient, probably in the last day without having a lab there. It's dried, but it's not like crusted over.
Yeah.
Is it a single door or is there like a double door?
Single door.
A single door.
This is like a side entrance.
All right.
I say, nice work, Pearson. And I pull out a handkerchief and I hand it to you. And I motion towards the door.
She pushes on the door handle in a spot where the blood is not, and she just sort of opens it.
All right. You look out across the opening towards Roshan Hall. Otherwise, kind of a tree-lined walkway over here. Both buildings are 3 stories. Like I said, there's this tree-lined walkway. They're about 30 feet apart.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. Damage that was done in there, and blood would have had to have got on somebody, but...
Well, if no one else has anything they want to look at in here, I say we go find Dr. Gibbs.
Do we need to check upstairs?
Might as well.
I'm gonna. I'll watch the door here. Make sure no one messes with the evidence. We should take some samples. Maybe if we can confirm whose blood this is.
Sure.
At least we can know maybe if it's the assailants or if it matches blood type with Dr. Laporte.
I look at Sheffield and I say, I guess we're checking upstairs.
All right. You guys go through and you walk through the second floor. It's the second and third floor are about half to 2/3 the size. There's one wing kind of towards the way you came in that's only one floor, or it's at least it's a kind of higher open ceilings, but it doesn't go up to a second and third floor. And then there's kind of a raised portion. So it's only about 2/3 of the building that has that second and third stories. Most of the offices up here, a bunch of storerooms. You're mostly going off of labels on doors, but you're checking almost every door is locked. There's a few that aren't. You open. There's a few kind of assembly rooms, kind of break rooms.
Is it just me and Sheffield?
Yep.
Okay. As we're walking, I say, Sergeant Buckhold, he's, why isn't he a detective?
Well, he's going to be, I think. He's, we only got one sergeant detective. Well, 2, but one of them lined up to retire. And, he's only been on the force 6 years. So, he's done pretty well already.
Well, stay on his good side. He may be your boss soon enough.
Yeah. Might be quiet here, but when you see a lot more in Boston than you do in Ithaca. So, we respect his expertise and experience,
I say that's the accent.
Well, oh yeah. Don't even get him going about the Red Sox. It's fucking endless.
Well, I'm sorry your quiet town had to get not so quiet.
Yeah, hey, if I came off the wrong way, I got to be honest, it's not like you ever want to catch a job, but when something happens, and I respect you guys and what you do, but it's like I said, you don't want anybody to die, but if you do, you hope to be there. It takes a little bit of the wind out of their sails when the big guns come swooping in immediately.
Hey, look, the goal is to prevent, right?
Yeah.
And, well, first one in, what'd you say, 6 years?
8.
8 years?
Yeah.
I'd say you guys are doing a good job then.
Yeah, not too bad, I guess. He stops, kind of leans back to light a cigarette, and he kind of almost catches himself and falls over as the door behind him swings open. And he kind of turns, he goes, shit. Turn around, and he kind of pushes the door the rest of the way open. Look inside. You flick a light, Jake. You reach past him, and you see an office, and you see papers everywhere. You've gone, up and down the building, coming back through the last time, kind of just coming back up towards that stairwell from the other side. And you see an office that's completely tossed. You look down at the door, and it looks like it was it's a much lower level of lock, and it was either picked or forced. You see some scratch and scuff marks, and you look up in the light, and you see the name Dr. Zwicky.
I say, we better go get the others. And I go to the top of the stairs or whatever there and I say, better come up here. Sheffield found something.
You didn't expect to hear that.
I imagine Audrey and Buck are outside smoking a cigarette and just chatting about baseball. Audrey loves baseball. She's like, the Cubs, I think, are due. The pitching is good. The fielding is fine, but they can hit.
Yeah. Cubs. Fucking joke.
When's the last time the Red Sox did anything?
You hear Agent Slater shouting from the stairwell.
Oh, fuck.
All right. Buckholz will crack you a smile. Sheffield.
You gather up there and start going through. You see Sheffield kind of has a smile on his face and seems to be a little bit less combative after what Slater called out. And you hear him talking as you walk in. He's like, yes, you check every door, right? And you're looking in the office. It's, a smallish office, kind of cluttered.
As we walk in, I just sort of tap the nameplate and look at Agent Pearson.
You look at the name and you reference your sheet, either mentally or personally, of the 6 names.
6 names. I think she is smart enough to have committed them all to memory by now.
Dr. Fritz Zwicky, astronomer, Swiss.
And is he on the program?
He is.
Okay.
All 6 of those names that you have on that sheet, those are the names that, as far as you know, are affiliated with Project North Star.
Okay.
Name mean anything to you?
Never heard the name before, honestly. We don't need too many cooks in the kitchen.
Matt, Buckholz, give me a human roll.
Oh.
And Devin,
Yeah.
why don't you do one for Agent Pearson? This will be our first contested roll. Human
that's a big fail.
intelligence is kind of what you use to read people. And
Could I use my streetwise as to maintain a poker face? I'll tell you this, my persuade is better.
your persuade is better.
Yeah, I have a persuade at a 60, my streetwise at a 50, but I think
you can be persuasive and yet not necessarily great at having a great poker face.
right, and that's why I think streetwise is the skill to use.
Wouldn't it be human?
It would normally be human.
Okay.
I'll let you roll streetwise with a penalty.
Okay. Well, okay, I'll do that. Well, so here's my human is higher than my streetwise.
Oh, yeah?
But I feel like the streetwise of someone being able to put on a poker
Okay.
face and
All right.
not reveal.
Roll it straight up then.
I'm going to roll it straight up.
I thought you were trying to game the game.
Nope. I was
gaming back at you.
I'm trying to game as one should game. I got a 47 under 50 for streetwise.
Pass, and that's a fail for you, Matt?
You had an 88 on over 50.
Crit fail. Okay. Mark experience. And
Oh, guys, all we have to do is keep having contested rolls.
I'm going to put you a little bit off the hunt as far as, Matt catching on to what these agents are kind of really interested in. So with that crit fail, you lose, subconsciously, you're not aware of it, but it's going to take a little bit more for them to kind of reveal their hand.
Okay.
So you look through this office. Again, there's filing cabinets. There's a desk. There's not a ton of things in here. There's not a lot of personal effects. A few small things. There's a painting of this kind of alpine village looking down at a lake. There's some knickknacks. There are awards on the walls. Some in German, one in French. And there is a framed visa entry to the United States, marked 1933.
Well, I hate to tell you, if he's not ringing a bell, it's definitely clear that he's part of this. So it's at least good to know that the FBI knows just as little as we do.
I say you should probably radio in, make sure someone's over at his house, apartment, wherever he lives. Make sure he's safe.
Hey, Sheffield, do you want to take care of that?
Yeah, I'll get it, Sarge. I'll head down to the desk. There's a phone out front. Anybody who wants to dig in more can give me a search roll in here.
Could I do something else?
Sure. Yeah, tell me what you guys want to do.
I'm just going to start looking around, just searching the room. Curious about the lock and how it was opened, but just doing a thorough search, see if anything's out of place, see if there's any blood, anything.
Okay.
Agent Pearson is going to walk the halls. She has this casual sort of hands on her hips, slow walk, but her right hand is resting on the grip of her 38 Super that sits at her waist.
Okay.
And she is looking, so she has these names in her mind palace. And she assumes that these offices, some of them are occupied by faculty. And what she's doing is she's going to look and find, she wants to clock all of the offices of the 6 names of the faculty members who are on Project North Star. Number 1, to see if any of the other ones are broken into or if this Dr. Zwicky's office is unique.
Okay. What do you think you're going to use for that?
It seems search might be the
Okay.
most.
I'll give you that. Matt, what's Buck up to? Anything?
Yeah, I guess he would probably give a search, but it's probably going to be a bit half-hearted in that, they don't really know, this guy doesn't seem to have any sort of connection and he doesn't understand most of what is going to be on this paperwork. So he's not really thinking he's going to be able to figure out what's missing in all of this fucking mess.
Sure.
Well, I passed 33 under 40.
That's a crit success.
Double numbers, right?
Yeah.
11, 22, 33. Yeah.
Okay. Here's what we're going to do with this. So crit success from Buck, success from Slater, Pearson.
66 over 40. Search.
Crit fail.
Crit fail.
Okay.
Does the tentacle come out of the bottom of a door?
You find 3 names in this building that match the names of the 6 names you're looking for. Zwicky, the office that you just came out of. Laporte, who is the deceased. And Castler, Alfred Castler. And that door appears to be locked. Jake, you are digging through. Again, it's kind of hard. You have to sort of play mind games because it's like you're searching things you don't understand as you're looking at these files. You're like, how do I even know?
I'm not really worried about what the files say.
Okay.
Well, I'm not trying to figure out what's missing or anything like that.
Well, what you determine is kind of like there's an absence. You're looking through and it's like everything was tossed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you have all these empty drawers, you have all these files everywhere. And then it's like there's this kind of void. And you kind of go through and you're making the motions. It looked methodical. Like stack pulled out, spread, tossed through. Stack pulled out, spread, tossed through. Missing stack. Empty drawer.
Would it be alphabetical?
Most of the drawers are labeled. This one is also. It's labeled Dunkel Materie.
I pull out a little notepad out of my trench coat pocket and I write that down.
Okay.
And I say, don't suppose you speak German.
Buck has left the room.
Oh, okay.
Buck, you kind of going through and it's a small office. Slater's kind of going through it and you're kind of like, you're ready to move on to the next thing, but you're still a cop and you sort of just start expanding your search and you go through the hallways. You go not far from here is the next stairway up. You go up and just kind of by instinct, you're checking doors, and you check the door to the roof. You push open the door to the roof. You look across. It's after sunset now, kind of twilight, and you turn to go back in, and you look, and you see signs of the roof door having been forced from the outside.
Fuck. Okay, he'll take that information back down.
Audrey, you walk back into the office of Fritz Zwicky, and you see Agent Slater writing something down.
I say, I don't suppose you speak German.
I get a little bit.
I point to the file cabinet door.
Dunkel Materie.
Dark matter.
Dark matter.
Dark
Fade
matter.
to black. And we'll see you next week.
Damn.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Thank you for listening to the Nastygram RPG podcast. This has been the Ithaca Project. Our intro music is Walkin' with Michael Douglas by Wilhelm Scream. Outro music, Dark Ritual by Adrian von Ziegler. All scores by Adrian von Ziegler and Antti Martikainen. If you enjoy the show, please take the time to give us a rating, tell a friend, and find us and interact with us on the webs. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, email, Reddit, all that shit. And of course, see you next Tuesday.
That's nasty.
The ring of steel, about which I have spoken day after day, exists no more. Its purpose has been achieved, and the Allied forces have been routed so thoroughly that it may be wondered if there is any parallel for such a defeat in the whole of military history. Everywhere within the area enclosed by the ring, resistance has broken down. The commander of the 1st French Army has been captured, and the number of British and French prisoners taken is at present beyond computation. The same is true of the quantities of war material captured. In disorder, despair, and chaos, the British Expeditionary Force has sought to save itself by withdrawing from the continent. But the very attempt has produced British casualties of a shocking magnitude. On Wednesday, 60 British ships engaged in this operation were hit by bombs and 31 were sunk. And today comes the news of still further British losses. Along a strip of land 6 miles deep, the British are still trying to cover the retreat of their forces across the Channel.